Good afternoon, everybody. John and I here. I'm super excited to talk to you guys today about sales, and I appreciate that you all joined me. First thing that I want to do is just give you just a little bit of background. So I'm not your typical professor, right? So I'm what they call a professor, professional in residence. So I have a master's degree. I went to Gonzaga, and but I have about 18 years of experience. That let's see. Did my picture disappear? There we go. Why is it doing that? Okay, there we go. Sorry. So I have about 18 years of experience in sales and marketing, and so the College of Business does something I think is really awesome. It's like, our professors, we have PhDs, but we also have professionals and residents who actually been in the real world doing things. So my experience that I'm going to be sharing with you today is kind of from real world sales and marketing kind of background. Okay. Does anybody have any questions before I get started? Okay, that's okay. And you can always use the chat, or if you want to do that, or just raise your hand and we'll get going. So the first thing that I wanted to make sure is that there's one thing that I know we all have to really be aware of, that I want to talk about before we get into the sales process, and that is with negotiations. And so and this is part of the sales process, but it's also something that I wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of, because it's so important. And that is, when is the right time to start negotiating like salary, or when is the right time to start negotiating benefits or things like that when you're interviewing for a job? Does anybody have an idea on that? Yes, Gary.
Yeah, so I think once you actually got the job offered to you, that's when you can negotiate more about the price and benefits and stuff like that.
That is perfect, right? And so, and why would you say that?
Because before that, you don't have really any leverage, I feel like, because if you start negotiating about your salary and the benefits, yes, even before you get offered the job, you might not get offered the job at all, because they're like, oh, you're already worrying about the money and everything, and you're not actually truly care about the job. You just want to make the best for yourself, I guess.
That is exactly right. When we are in that situation, and all of you will get there, this is just something really important to remember. And so a lot of times businesses will they'll ask you questions in the interview. They'll start to say stuff like, what's your expected salary, or what do you want to make, right? And Angie, if I could pick on you, right? So if I was in that interview and I started asking you those questions, what would you say?
I might say something like, I would be comfortable talking about that if and when I'm offered the job.
That is perfect. Because, and you're not being rude, you're being very polite. Because what happens is businesses, a lot of times, they're just trying to, fill out. And if you go in, they're trying to fill out kind of where you stand, and say, maybe you answer the question and you say, well, I really wanted to start at, 60,000. I've done this, type of thing. That may not be in their budget. They may just exclude you from their search, right? And I've told the story before. We've done a lot of searches here, and one time we were hiring an admin assistant, and as we were going through there was one particular woman that we really liked, but she kept saying, I want to know what the schedule is, and I'd like to teach yoga during noon, and there's other things that I like to do. Do I need to be there during the lunch break? And our particular job, we do a lot of speakers and stuff like that happens during lunch. And so even though we really didn't like this candidate, that candidate actually kind of talked herself out of the job before we even got to that point. So what I highly recommend is exactly, kind of what Gary and Angie said, is that sell them on you first. Get them to make you that offer. And then when they say, hey, Angie or Keegan or, Jamie or Jaime or Gary, I'd like to offer you this position. That's when you say, I'm flattered. Thank you so much. And you can kind of talk about, what their offer is, what is the offer? And maybe they start you at a salary that is lower than you're expecting. But that's when you can talk about, is this negotiable, right? That's when you can talk about like, well, one of the things that I really is important to me is that I'd like to teach a yoga class at noon. That's when you talk about it, is once that job is open, been offered to you. Because like Gary said, now the leverage is on my side. Before, they haven't offered the position, the leverage is on their side. So just wanted to go through that. We're kind of talking about sales things, but I think that's really important aspect of this. So any questions on negotiation? Okay, so let's move on. Teaching this sales class, one of the most important things that everybody needs to realize is that everybody sells. Would anybody disagree with that? You disagree, agree? I tell the story. I think talked about it before, but for a while I was thinking like a garbage man doesn't sell, probably, right? But then I had the funny experience, just like a month is like during the summer this year, and my garbage man, like I was putting my stuff out, and he was like, he started handing me out flyers and talking to me about the recycling program, right? So here it is, even the garbage man sells. Is there any other positions that you think might not sell? Yeah, Gary.
So I think I might have an example. So obviously we have like the direct sales when you go like door to door. I feel like that's what people think about when you bring up sales.
Yes.
But as you mentioned it, everybody sells. So even like we are kind of selling ourselves every day. We like kind of representing ourselves. Our like reputation is on the line. Whenever we go, wherever we go, like let's say we just go to class. Like how you interact with your professor, your friends, the students, or if you just go to the grocery store, you're checking out, you're at the cashier, and like just talk to them a little bit. How was your day? Hey, how has it been? And it can be the exact opposite as well, like negatively affect yourself like that, like, oh, like nothing, it's fine. Like it can be just be like open-minded, because you never know where you will get like an opportunity from this connection or that. I just feel like you gotta represent yourself, that like kind of you're selling yourself every day, even if you don't think about it like that. But that's what essentially we are doing every day.
No, you are exactly right. And as a professor, here I'm constantly basically selling myself, or it's kind of like my personal brand of what I'm what kinds of things that you might learn from me in the classroom, what kind of experience I have, talking to people, so that and that all that adds up when you combine our faculty into our reputation as a school too, right? But no, you're exactly right. We're selling ourselves every day. So that's why I wanted to kind of in this series go through kind of the sales process. And the last thing that I'm going to say is that I never teach like a used car sales. Sometimes that's a negative connotation that gets associated with sales, and that's not what we're talking about here. We're honestly talking about how do we sell ourselves? How do we brand ourselves? How do we do those things that earn us more money in the negotiation, right? In the job negotiation, or stuff like that. One of my favorite stories is with Nick Saban. Everybody know, you guys know who Nick Saban is? It's like, I know I've got all these tennis players in here, but Jaime, you're nodding your head. Keegan, you guys know who Nick Saban is?
Yes, I do know Nick Savans.
So he is the head football coach at Alabama, right? And I saw this great, video clip where he was talking, and one of his athletes had gotten into some trouble, right? And he brought him in, Alabama is really well known for a lot of their players going pro, right? And so he talked to his student and his student athlete, and he was saying, what is the difference between being a first round draft pick and being like a 5th round draft pick? And in the NFL, we're talking about millions and millions of dollars, right? And so this player was very talented, had a very, high potential to go like as a 1st round draft pick. And that is the difference, like I said, between 1st and 5th round is millions of dollars. And he just talked to him. He's like, if you continue to behave this way and get in trouble, you're forfeiting yourself millions of dollars, right? And after, he had that conversation, that player never had another problem with him again, ended up getting drafted, playing in the NFL, just kind of things. So those are some of the things we have to kind of think about. But I also wanted to share with you an experience that I went through on sales, and I want to hopefully save you from going through that same thing. So I was I was a college student doing an intern in Seattle I don't even want to tell you what year it was. It was like, a while ago. And I was doing it in the summer, and it was with AT&T, the phone company. And I had been there like all of one day, and this vice president, and remember back in my day, it was like everybody was in a suit, right? And so the vice president of AT&T comes in to talk to me, and he's like, okay, John, I want you to sell me this pen, right? Now, number one, I was scared to death, okay? Like, I really hadn't been through a sales class. I hadn't done anything. So where do you think I started? I started with features and benefits, right? I just started going, well, and I don't know if you can see my pen, but, it's an orange pen. It's like, it writes really nice. It's, you should really, look at buying this pen. And who can tell me what's wrong with that approach? Angie, I'll let Angie. I'm sorry. I thought I saw Angie raise her hand.
Jaime, you can go if you want to.
No, go ahead. It's fine. Go ahead. It's fine.
I think that one of the reasons that, or what may be wrong with that approach, is that you didn't identify any of the reasons that he might want the pen. You just started selling the pen based on what it is, but didn't even identify a need that if you needed it or not, I guess.
You're exactly right. Jaime, did you have anything you want to add?
I mean, basically what I was gonna say is like you didn't identify the need. Like you said all the good things about the pen, but like,
yes,
if he doesn't need it, why would he buy it, right?
You're so right. And so that's, as I would go in, and I've done this in a lot of times in interviews, because people will say, oh, I was the top salesman in this, and I was a top salesman in that, and, I did this or I did that. And, so I just like literally, that's one of my favorite questions on an interview. If it's a sales position, is to just ask, sell me something you care about. Sell me a pen, sell me, I don't care. I had one guy sell me a Harley Davidson motorcycle, and you can just find out. And you're exactly right. So like when I went through this with, Michael was his name, he's the vice president. He's like, John, and he was actually really nice to me. I was like, I think he felt sorry for me because I did so bad. He's like, John, you don't even know, you haven't asked me one question, right? Like, why do I want the pen? Exactly what Angie and Jaime said. And so it's like, so you kind of go back and like, well, what are you going to use it for, right? Are you interested? First, are you interested? Do you need pens? He's like, well, yeah, I need pens. I'm vice president of AT&T, and we hand them out at Seafair all the time, and tables, and I need a bunch of pens. And I'm like, well, okay, what do you need them for? And so he tells me, and then so we just kept asking questions, and it was more of, he was looking more for like kind of a logo pen with AT&T on it than he was really something super quality that he was going to sign, documents and contracts with. And so, once I knew that, it became really easy, right? And I started just kind of talking to him. And when you talk to any salesperson that's really good, they'll just tell you, I don't really know what I do. I just talk to clients. But if you really go through the outline, the first thing they do is they start asking questions. What's important to you? What are you interested in? What do you need? And as we identify those needs, then we can make a really good, offering back to them about what we can do. Or we can find out, well, we don't really have what they, need. So the, kind of first step is identifying needs, and then you start to make some offers, right? So like as I asked questions further along, as I had to role play through this, is like, well, how many do you need and what are these for, and those kinds of things. And he's like, I literally need thousands of these, right? So then I'm like, okay, so you need like a volume. Probably, are you looking for like something that we could get on a contract basis? Because if we have contracts, we can give you a lower price. And he's like, that's exactly right. He's like, that's what I want. I want like a monthly supply, because every month we're going through all these pins and we're handing them out to customers. So I ended up like offering to him and selling him a volume discount with all these AT&T blue and white pins that weren't super expensive, but that wasn't what he was looking for. He just wanted everybody to walk away with a blue and white pen. But there is a time when you start, having to differentiate and talk about, well, the difference between this pen and that pen is I've got, something for your hand to hold on. I've got this black thing that makes it more comfortable. There is time to talk about features and benefits, but that's after you've identified what those needs are, right? And once I talked to him, he didn't care about having this grip thing like that's on this pen, right? And then the other thing that is really, super important is that after we make these recommendations, a lot of times customers start to have like, they'll have, I call them, just like basically, they'll have some reason why they can't get the pen, right? Like, I need to talk to somebody. I want to, we call it overcoming objections. And so, what would be an objection? Like if I started talking about it, I interviewed for need, what would maybe be something that you would think, would be an objection to? It could be a pen or anything like that. Do you guys have an idea on what some of those objections are, Keegan?
Yeah, just going off of the pen example, I would say, oh, I already have a pen, so why would I need your pen?
Yeah, right. So and so he has a pen. He doesn't need pens. He's got another company that's already supplying him with pens. So I need to come back and make him understand why our pens are better, right? What is like the most common? We used to get this all the time. I was in the cell phone business, but what do you think was the most common objection that we got from customers when we started selling? Yeah, Gary.
Not sure if this is the most common one, but I guess usually they're like, I can't really decide this alone. I have to talk to my significant other, wife, husband, could be anyone.
You totally nailed it, right? I need to talk to somebody. So what would be a good thing that I could say in that situation? Because it's really common, right?
One thing could be like, let's give them a call right now, maybe ask them how they feel, so you don't lose the customer right away, because if you kind of let them go, then it's hard to get them back, I feel like.
Yes.
Or some other things that you could do is maybe ask them like, hey, you can just sign up today and there's a free trial, let's say for like a 30-day free trial, so you're actually not going to lose money on it, even if you don't like it. And then you can just go home and tell your significant other like, hey, I signed up for this one product or service, and then I didn't have to pay anything, so it's free for a month. If we like it, we can keep it. It's going to be $10, $15, $50 a month after that. if we don't like it, we can just cancel anytime and we didn't lose anything. So it's kind of like a win-win for everybody.
That's perfect. That's exactly right. And the first thing too is to recognize that that's okay, right? Sometimes people are like, oh, you don't need to talk. No, you want to say, you know what? Hey, before I make any major decision, I'm going to talk to my, spouse too, right? I get that. Now, let's talk about a couple different options that we could do, right? Like we can, if you would like, I'd be happy to talk to her too. If she's close by, maybe we could have her come over, or we do, and it's very true. We have a 30-day free money back guarantee. You can save a trip. You guys can try it out 30 days. So that's a good way. There's a variety of things, but how you handle kind of those objections can really be a differentiator on making a sale or not making a sale. Okay. Okay. So let's say, we've gone through this. Now, what do you think is the other most common mistake besides, that not so much a mistake, but thing that salespeople don't do when they're trying to make a sale? Yeah, Jaime.
Closing.
Yes.
That's an important part,
That's,
you don't really get to close.
that's exactly right. So when we're talking about closing, what exactly does that mean for maybe somebody who isn't as familiar with the sales process? Keegan, or sorry, either.
Sorry, no, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were talking to me.
Yeah, Keegan, what
So
is?
we've obviously been through the sales, the process, getting to know the customer. Then they have some interest in the product, and so we want to sell the product, but then we don't really ask, would you like to buy the product?
That's it. You're exactly right. And this happens all the time. And it just drives me crazy, right? So last year, I have to just tell you, in our sales contest, I've taught it, we talked about it, we went through it, and still, even in that class where, it's a role play, I had students not asking for the sale. And this happens in the real world. It's like we're kind of afraid, right? It's like, and what do you think we're afraid of? Yeah, Gary.
I mean, rejection, that
Yes.
they will say no. But I feel like if you went through, the whole process and everything, then you already put yourself at a very good position. So you can kind of, feel them out, they actually need it, you offered a good price, hey, money back guarantee, everything. So, I mean, they still might say no, but if you're good enough at what you did, then it should be fine. But yeah, there's still going to be some rejections, which is fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing is we hear about sales and sales jobs, and, just so everybody knows, sales positions make the most money, right? It's very common in the sales world to be making 6 figures or more. And, but, there is rejection. And so you have to be able to be okay with that, because not everybody's going to buy from you. But you're right. So that's exactly why people don't always close. But if you don't try to ask for the sale, you're never going to get one, right? So this is a really, really important aspect. So at the end of it, Michael, we've talked about all of these pins. We can get you on a monthly contract. We've got the blue and white, red AT&T, just like you wanted. And we can, get you to this price point. And would you like to sign up for that today? Can we get you to sign up for that today? Just actually asking. And, sometimes people will, that's where you might get another objection, or you might get something, but hey, that's okay. We can go back through now. But we also remind them, well, remember you said to me, it was really important that you got these on a monthly basis. You also said it was really important to you that it had the logo. We can do that. And you also said that we needed to be in this price point. So we're in this price point. So, which of these offers, do you want a 2-year contract or a 1-year contract? Which of these makes the most sense for you? right? We can just keep walking people back through and hoping, that we can get the sale. But so yeah, so really good job, you guys, and understanding that. Now, do you know a phenomenon of buyer's remorse? Who all understands what buyer's remorse is? Gary, do you mind giving us a little bit of a reminder what buyer's remorse is?
Yeah, so I think even after like you close the sale and it's for the customer, because the buyer's remorse, that they feel like that they might have made a mistake, maybe that they're not sure if this was a good decision or not. Even with the money back guarantee and everything, they feel like a little bit down, like, oh, I just did this, but I'm not really sure
Yes.
if it was a good move.
That is exact, and it's completely natural. It's a phenomenon that we all have. It's a human emotion. It's like, I don't know, if any of you have bought a car yet, or especially happens on bigger purchases, right? Kind of the bigger the purchase, sometimes there's more, remorse, like, oh my God, what am I doing? How am I going to be able to pay for this? That kind of a thing. So, what do you think we can do when we've, so I've got Michael, he said, okay, I'm going to take the 2-year contract because that was a better deal. And he's starting to think, man, I just signed, a contract for 2 years. What can I say to him? What kinds of things should we do in that situation? Keegan.
Yeah, I think you need to be really positive with the customer and just say, look, you made a great decision, and just explain that you really made a great decision and don't go back on your decision, basically.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. Is a compliment, right? Hey, you know what, Michael, you made a great choice here. You're going to get our 2-year contract, which is our best pricing. You're going to get these on a monthly basis. I'm going to personally make sure that you're going to get those, and we'll get them distributed to all your branches so that you have them ready for, all your events. So hey, great job today. And if there's ever anything else that, I can do to help, here's my card, right? So just a really good compliment. One of my favorite stories that I used to say, and is true in the cell phone world, and is when, and you guys can laugh at me, but when, cell phones first came out as smartphones, right? Like before that, they were just always a phone. And my sister, of course, we always go to our friends and family, right? She was one of the first persons, or one of the first customers to buy the smartphone from my company. And so she was so excited, right? Like, she had her calendar in one place. She had all of her contacts in one place. She, her phone, and, before that, those were in separate areas, right? And she told me, I asked her, oh, I don't know, a week after, like at family dinner, I was like, hey, how's your phone going? She's like, oh my God, John, you have saved me so much time. It's like one of the best decisions I ever made. This is awesome, right? And so when I would sell those phones to other customers, that was my, compliment. Hey, you've made a really good choice. My sister, I just talked to her at family dinner. She said it was like one of the best choices she ever made. It saved her so much time and effort, right? So it's kind of the same, exactly what you just talked about, Keegan, is just giving, a compliment that they made a good choice so that people, oh, I used my money wisely here. It's going to save me time. It's going to save me money. So, so that's a really important aspect of kind of the overall sales process. So, okay, so we're getting to the end, and I just want to do a quick kind of summary, right? So let's talk about at first in negotiation. When is it that we want to start talking salary and those kinds of things with somebody who's going to hire you? And Angie.
Once you're offered the job.
Once you're offered the job, you've got that leverage. Okay, and then what is the first step? What is the first step in the sales process? Yeah, Gary.
You gotta kind of introduce yourself and intro with inference, kind of make a strong introduction, I guess, and then tell them maybe who who you got their information from, like a friend or something. So you're not just a stranger. It's not just a cold call. You're actually already a little bit closer to them.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think we kind of forgot to mention that when we went through it the first time. That introduction with inference, cold calls are the hardest thing in sales, right? It has the least probability of working. So if I can say, like you said, an inference of, hey, Gary, I met another person on the tennis team. I met Angie, and she recently bought this phone from me, and she thought you also might be interested in it. So, do you have a couple minutes? Just the fact that I know Angie and Angie gives us just a little bit more of a warming of that call. So yes, okay, I'm glad we did the summary, because otherwise we would have left that out. So good job. Okay, so now I've introduced, I know you, I start to talk. What is the next step? Keegan.
Identify the need.
Identify the need. And how do I do that?
Well, asking questions. I think that's sort of why do you want this product, and
good job. That's exactly right. I got to ask questions. I got to find out why, or if they need it, right? So okay, and then what's the next step after we've identified what their needs are? Okay, Gary.
I think maybe it could be different, but you want to like present the product as well, and like kind of describe the benefits. So you don't want to start with that as we talked about it. You want to start with what Keegan said, asking questions, kind of seeing if there is a need for your product at all. And then you can kind of describe the benefits and then all the good things about the product to make sure that it's the best for them.
That's perfect. We present the product, and we present the product that meets their need, right? So here we're kind of solving that problem, right? So you need a phone, you need a pen. We're going to go, and I didn't offer him the big fancy pen that you sign for contracts. I'm recommending the one that solves his need, which was for events, right? So good. Okay, so we present the product. Then what's next after that? Jaime, I'm gonna have you go, because I cut you off on the last one. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, once you got the need, you got the product, you make sure everything's right. That's when you kind of have an offer. Closing time. It's like once you start like getting more into like the part that you want, your product to be sell, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask him which of these makes sense for you, right? Or what's the thing for you? And then Gary, you had your hand up. What else is kind of involved in that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. So obviously, if you did a good job, then you can close already. Right. But maybe if they have any like issues, like objections, like overcoming some more objections.
Yes.
After the need, yeah. So that's it. But yeah.
And it's perfect. So I'm asking for the sale, but then maybe they have some objections. So I'm going to handle that. Sometimes the objections come before I ask, and sometimes they come after, right? So yeah, we're right in the exact, same process there. So I'm going to handle those objections, and then hopefully we close the sale. And then what is the last thing that we're going to do? Hopefully they said that they wanted it. Jaime, what's the last thing we're going to do?
Well, reassurance, making sure the customer feels good about the purchase or the service, yes. Making sure they're happy about it and they keep being happy about it.
You guys are awesome. That's exactly right. We're going to compliment them. We're going to assure them. We're going to, they made a really good choice, and they're going to be happy about what they did. So, well, you guys, you've been awesome. I really appreciate being able to kind of talk to you about sales and negotiation today. Is there any other questions or things that you might have, as students in this situation that you'd like to talk about today?
I just have one. I think it's also good for students because there's a misconception in the personality, and I think like a lot of people think that salespeople have to have a certain personality. And I think being an introvert, I think before coming to the sales class, I thought, oh, maybe is sales not for me? But after going through the class, I think anyone can be a salesperson. So I just would like to know your thoughts on that.
Oh, I completely agree. And you bring up a really, Keegan, you bring up a super good point. And that is that, you know, everybody thinks of the golden rule, right? They think of like, okay, well, the golden rule is treat everybody as I want to be treated, right? But in sales, we can't do that. If we got into this deeper, I'm going to start, we're going to study a little bit about personality styles, right? And so it's like you said, Keegan, if you're an introvert and you're a customer of mine, then I know I'm not going to try to do a bunch of extroverted things. How's the weather? How you doing? Whatever. I know that you're probably very much more interested in getting kind of down to business and understanding about the product and service. So I think that, yes, we just have to be able to work with others. But at the end of the day, sales is about building relationships, right? I mean, honestly, it's, people who, as long as you're in that situation, you're thinking about sales and you can build relationships, and introverts can do that sometimes better than extroverts, right? Because a lot of times extroverts, we kind of go, we like to meet a lot of people in a big setting, but introverts do a really good job of building one-on-one relationships, good longer term relationships, where sometimes extroverts are kind of floating around. But no, I totally agree with you, and I think some of the most successful salespeople I know are introverted, right? So, but I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's really important. And when you're kind of trying to decide if that's something that you want to do, you are going to meet a lot of different people, but as long as you're building those relationships one at a time, you're going to be just fine. Good stuff. What else, Gary?
Yeah, so I think obviously most sales jobs, I guess they're commission based.
Yes.
That's what I think scares most people about it, because like, oh, what if I don't perform or whatever? But if you think about it, I mean, okay, like if you're just doing your job and just wing it every day, whatever you do, I don't know, but you get the same salary, but then is that good for you or the company? Probably not.
Yes.
But then in sales, you kind of get out whatever you put in, however much effort you put into it, you get that out. It's kind of like that with most things, but it's
Yes.
especially true with sales. It's true in general, I feel like, in life, but with sales, because they're commission based, performance based, it's absolutely true for that. So that's very good area to be.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you brought that up. And that's what's exciting to me about sales is, yeah, you can go and there's nothing wrong with it. We're all different, right? There's nothing wrong with, you get a salary and that's your salary, and you get 3% raise a year, and whatever. And I'm kind of in that situation now as a teacher, right? I'm not getting commission based on how many students I recruit, right? Or whatever. So I'm but it's guaranteed, right? And I'm okay with that. But I do kind of miss those days when I was on commission, because there was a much higher upside, and you can make a lot of money. And especially like if you're kind of competitive and you like competition, a lot of sales companies will be like, hey, we're going to have a 1 month competition, and the winner of this competition that like sells the most is going to be win a cruise, right? Or they're going to, so there's all kinds of different things that happen in sales or in sales commission, in sales positions, that don't always happen in, I'm not going to get a cruise if you guys give me, really good evals on my, my thing. But yeah, no, I'm really glad you brought that up. What else? Anything else that we need to talk about today? Okay, well, I honestly can't thank you enough for being here. I really appreciate it, and you help remind me of things to talk about. So thank you, and I will be talking to you soon.